Meet Stick Boy. Stick Boy is pretty impressive. I mean, he learned to walk just by watching his parents. And come to think of it, he learned to talk just by watching his parents too. Stick Boy has of course had obstacles in his life, like anybody else. Stick Boy has done an amazing job of just getting her done as he has gone through life. In fact, obstacles that previously were hard for him to overcome can easily be surmounted many times, even taking them in stride. Stick Boy learned that as the obstacles became bigger, he merely needed to jump higher. Jump higher became a sort of mantra to Stick Boy, kind of like his own version of just do it or get her done. Stick Boy was elated with his newfound ability to jump higher and the sense of accomplishment it gave him as he progressed along the path of life. One day, this all came to a screeching halt when Stick Boy tried to jump higher and was not successful. He told himself the motivational speech that he had now memorized by heart as he backed up to get another run at jumping this obstacle. Getting as much running distance as he felt he needed, he turned to run towards the obstacle and once again told himself the reassuring mantra that had worked every other time he had been faced with ever-increasing obstacles. Stick Boy, just jump higher. As he leaped into the air, giving more than he had ever given before, he started to feel the rush of success once again come into his body. He knew this feeling very well. And as the wind swept past his face, he focused his vision further down the path of life on how amazing it would feel in just mere moments to hit the ground running. But this time with the obstacle that had previously beaten him now behind him and fading further and further into the background as he pressed forward. Although Stick Boy mentally had already jumped this obstacle and was running down the path of life again, he started to see that physically he was starting to come down from his jump too early. Too early, that is, if he was going to clear this obstacle. And sure enough, the next thing Stick Boy felt was him hitting the side of the obstacle and falling once again to the ground. Stick Boy felt frustrated. He was frustrated that he had not cleared the obstacle. Frustrated and let down by a mantra that had always worked in the past, but somehow didn't work this time. No, he told himself, I know that just jumping higher works. It has always worked. Year after year it has worked. It's something I'm doing wrong. I just need to try it again. I know it will work this time. So Stick Boy picked himself up once again, a little bruised and battered, but committed to give the just jump higher mantra another go. This time it will be different, he told himself. This time I will clear the obstacle. By now he was walking back the distance he would need to ensure he was at full speed at the jumping point. He saw the mark on the path where he started his last attempt and decided, for good measure, to take a few more steps. All I need to do is run a little faster and jump a little higher, he repeated in his mind, preparing himself. Stick Boy took a big breath and after exhaling started to run with everything he had. He could feel his muscles increasing in force with every step. He watched the path pass under his feet until he arrived at the spot on the trail that he determined was the best possible spot to jump from. This time his approach was picture perfect. Stick Boy knew he could not have paced his steps any better. His strongest leg landed exactly where it should have, and he once again leapt, using every advantage he knew of to propel him further through the air. Although last time Stick Boy mentally recited jump higher, this time his cherished mantra flew out of his mouth with greater force than he had ever spoken any words. Without even thinking about it, he found himself yelling, jump higher, repeatedly, even after he had already jumped and was now sailing through the air. Stick Boy wanted to clear this obstacle like he had never wanted anything before. Mentally, physically, and emotionally, he was giving everything he had and everything he knew how to give to overcome this obstacle. Having given his all, Stick Boy once again hit the wall with a thump and landed on the ground with a thud. This time Stick Boy didn't feel frustration. He felt absolutely humiliated. Without even thinking about it, Stick Boy had instantly tied his self-worth and his value to overcoming this obstacle. It didn't matter how many other obstacles he had cleared in the past. Why would it? The path of life is about moving forward, about progressing. And here he sat, having given everything he had, and yet it wasn't enough. Knowing that he couldn't just sit here forever, Stick Boy got up and began pacing back and forth and back and forth. Walking away from the wall, his head hung low. He found himself kicking his feet on the path, staring at the ground. Walking towards the wall, he found his eyes would always find their way to the top of the wall. He had the deepest desire to get over that wall, to beat the obstacle that had previously beaten him. While pacing back and forth, Stick Boy had an impression force its way into his mind. Knowing that it was so different than what he had come to believe from past experience, he started to repeat it slowly and thinking on each word as he spoke it softly. Pretty soon, just jump higher no longer works. Part of him wanted to believe the new thought. You see, it gave him a chance that just maybe there might be another way to overcome this seemingly unsurmountable obstacle. But about as quickly as it came, it was pushed away by years of personal experience when the words jump higher were all that was needed. Stick Boy wanted to believe that maybe just jump higher didn't always work, but the very thought seemed to go against everything he had experienced. His thoughts went back and forth as to why each thought was right and the other was wrong. At last he came to conclude that he didn't really know if just jump higher always worked. But he did know a few things for sure. He had tried it on this obstacle, and it didn't work for him. He tried to jump higher, and he couldn't. What had worked so many times before simply didn't cut it for this size of obstacle, at least for him. He knew very well that for some people they may be able to simply jump higher and clear this obstacle. But what mattered most is he realized for him that if he wanted to clear this obstacle, just jumping higher didn't work. Just coming to that conclusion in itself was liberating. He no longer felt trapped. He didn't know what to do to clear this obstacle or how he was going to, but now he at least felt that it was possible. Stick Boy learned quickly that talking about what he couldn't do didn't accomplish a lot. He chose to look at what he could do. He knew exactly how high he could jump, and he drew an imaginary line in his mind on the wall at the height he knew he could jump. It then dawned on him that if he drew another line that much higher up the wall, that he would be able to clear it. He also knew that to jump that high, he needed a pretty good run, and if he had to jump that high twice to clear the wall, there probably wouldn't be enough room on a second jump to get enough speed. Rather than try to jump the wall in 2 jumps, he figured there would be a greater chance of being successful if he could jump 3 shorter distances. He once again drew an imaginary line on the wall, breaking it down into 3 equal heights. The solution was now easy. He simply needed to find objects that were the height that he could place in front of the wall, each raising him higher towards the top of the obstacle. He began searching around for anything he could find that would place him closer to the top of the wall. After a while of searching, he found just what he needed, and with some pushing and grunting, everything was lined up where it needed to be. Stick Boy walked back along the path just far enough to give him the running start he needed, and just prior to the first obstacle, leaped into the air. He landed on one foot, and before placing the next one down, leaped again. He was so focused on the 2 objects that before he knew it, he was safely on the other side of the wall. He landed with a heavy thump, but didn't mind it that much, because guess what? He cleared it. He had made it. The old Stick Boy would have immediately started bounding down the trail, just looking for the next adventure, but not the new one. Don't get him wrong. He's excited to get going down the trail again, but not before he takes a minute to reflect on what he has learned. The new Stick Boy realized that on the other obstacles, he didn't really learn anything. He just went over them. The new Stick Boy learned that using what you already are and already have soon reaches a limit, and that the time comes when you can no longer just jump higher. He learned that sometimes you have to change your approach, learn a new way, or do something different. He also learned that sometimes what worked last time, or what may have even worked for years, might no longer work. And don't tell him, but he's about to learn it at a whole new level.